Hello, hello. Welcome. I was going to say good afternoon, but if you're on the West Coast, it's the morning, and if you're in Europe, it's late in the evening. So good day, I guess, to everybody. This is the first ever Nearbound at Work session, and we just decided we got to do these sessions every week. So for those of you who are here or listening to the recording, every week at noon Eastern, every Wednesday, there's going to be another Nearbound at Work session, and the genesis of this is just as we're out there talking to people in the market, the concept of Nearbound, of bringing intros, intel, and influence from the partners in your ecosystem, bringing those into the sales and marketing process. It's really connecting, and people are like, okay, I understand you got to have this like Nearbound motion. But what does it actually look like when the rubber hits the road? So you have all these partners, and you can see that they're in accounts that you're in, and they've got customers that are opportunities for you. Like, what do you do with that data? How do you plug it into your sales process, your marketing process? So rather than me blab about it, I want to find people who know what they're doing and who are doing some really cool stuff and putting these things to work, and have these conversations each week. So this week, excited to have RJ Filipski from Clari. He's the global VP of ecosystem. Yeah, I saw some emoji love down there. By the way, I love when people do those reaction emojis. It's like it reminds me that people are still there. And I think we have Q&A, by the way. I think you can press the Q&A button on the right, I think, and submit a question. Let me know. Maybe somebody should test it, and we'll see if that works. And if not, maybe Hope can figure out a way, because we want this to go live. To be able to have live back and forth. So I interrupted myself. I was in the middle of introducing you, RJ. Great to have you here, Global VP of Ecosystem from Clari.
Awesome. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
You bet. And then I've got Kevin with me, since he knows way more about this stuff than I do about the partnerships, role and what's going on out there in the market. And so he's kind of my co-pilot here to really get into the weeds. I'll kind of keep the pace. I'll play the Ryan Seacrest, I'll be the host, make sure that we're moving along, taking audience questions, and let these two be the subject matter experts. So, Kevin, what is your role? Director of Alliances. That's right, at Reveal.
Yeah, but RJ just told me that's so 1990s, so I might need a title change.
RJ, what title should Kevin have?
Wow, great question. I'd say I did, but yeah, we have a chief. I'm a big fan of the word ecosystem, and it's I know it's words and semantics, but channels are narrow, typically one-way things, and ecosystems are broad and interactive, and get scale to higher levels. So, yeah.
Look, words matter. Absolutely. I mean, it's been interesting just using the term Nearbound instead of something with the word partner in it. Suddenly, like, go-to-market people who don't work in partnerships, they kind of have a place to put it mentally. They're like, okay, I get it. You have an outbound strategy, an inbound strategy, a nearbound strategy, and then the conversation is so much easier from there. So I'm a big fan of getting the language right. Well, let's kick it off with just a kind of a broader question. Clari as a whole, you guys are really good at partnerships, and this is something that doesn't just happen by accident, and it doesn't just happen because you're really good at what you do, though no doubt you are. This is something company-wide. This is like an attitude and orientation about this approach. How do you, Kevin, I think you told me that RJ says attitude is more important than aptitude. How do you get the right attitude first and foremost to even be able to start putting some of these motions and strategies in place?
Yeah, I mean, like everything, it starts at the top. So I started off just a little about my back. I started the first half of my career, I was in enterprise sales, and I was selling, not going to really date myself, AS400 based warehousing software in the Midwest. And I was a guy who was the dealer guy. That's what we used to call partners way back in the day, dealers. So you're either selling software or illicit drugs, apparently.
Yeah, I like it. It's got a kind of a, it's got some intrigue.
And actually, if you look at some manufacturing spaces, that's a term. I know we got largely a B2B audience, SaaS audience here, but like that's still the thing, right? In large distribution segments. So, for me, I was really lucky. First company I worked for was a partner first organization from the top down. Our founder, small company, was ex-IBM. I spent the majority of my career at a company called Concur, which from the top down was a partner first organization. So it's a culture and attitude thing. And so super important. And when I was evaluating my next move, and I started to evaluate this amazing opportunity that I started the journey with at Clari a year ago, it was all about like, do we have the right attitude? And these are really hard jobs. And I tell people that all the time. Like you are looking to grow and influence and change the culture across sales organizations, marketing organizations, finance organizations, product organizations, and executive organizations, right? So the idea of having the right attitude to partner, and a lot of that has to do with humility, right? It has to be like, are you okay not always being the headliner, right? And the smartest companies that partner the best, that have the best ecosystems, do so on the basis of the fact that they create an economy. Salesforce does a great job talking about the Salesforce economy. The vision that we have at Clari that we're building out is like, how can we create the revenue collaboration and governance, or what we call RevCG economy? And so that attitude needs to be the foundation for everything. Because if you have people that believe that, and believe that you're not the sole source of innovation, and that actually ecosystems create and win categories, not companies alone, and that if you really want to go do the big things that you aspire to do, that your customers need you to do, you need to do it with some help from some friends, right? And so that idea of having selfless ambition, having humility, and having the right attitude to be able to grow is so foundational. So we're very blessed to have that here at Clari. But it's something, for those of you who are building programs, maybe relaunching programs, rethinking programs, like always think about the partnering attitude that you need to have up front. Because if you have the right attitude, you can teach people anything, right? If you've got people who've got an open mind that are curious, but that right foundational attitude, can't stress that enough.
I'd love to get from both of you, if you have like 2 or 3 concrete things that you can do at your organization to help. So culture is like what the combination of what you tolerate and what you celebrate, right? So if you have a few concrete examples, and maybe Kevin, you've seen some from your drift days, what are things you can do that celebrate that attitude, which help reinforce it, or things you do that, hey, we don't tolerate this kind of behavior? Like if you have any concrete examples, I think that'd be great for people who are trying to inculcate that culture.
Yeah, I think I've seen both, right? The things that we celebrate and the things that we do not tolerate. I think it's all about celebrating the wins when you have them, right? And sometimes that takes a little bit of a nudge in the background, right? If a partner helped to drive a deal forward, a partner's influence over or impact on even the small things, making sure that those get called out in front of the company is really important. And sometimes that comes naturally to an individual contributor or a sales or marketing leader. But sometimes you need a little bit of a nudge, right? And making sure that you're doing that in the background and sort of asking for help where it's sort of reciprocal to the help that you provided to get those wins across. I think that's an okay thing to be doing. But the outcome really is that it's sort of put in lights across the business in front of folks. And being able to do that on a very consistent basis has a significant compounding effect, right? So those little asks, those really small little things that actually make a big difference when it's compounded over time. Certainly those are things that helps to build that attitude, and it creates a little bit of FOMO, right? It's like, oh, this was awesome. I should really look at trying to do that thing as well. I think it's really important to call things out though that aren't tolerated either. We had, I've been part of companies that had a toxic relationship, direct and partner as well. And, I think that it's really important for leadership to sort of come down hard on the naysayers of partner, because all of those things are, you're losing trust across the organization. If, hey, the partner didn't really help this deal, or, little comments along the way in Slack, those types of things can be really detrimental to building the right attitude and building trust across the organization, especially if it's a new motion. And you need that leadership to step in and say, that's not a behavior that we're going to tolerate. Like, we don't win alone, we win together, to RJ's point. And that's inside the organization and outside the organization. No one's saying that, oh God, a sales engineer really didn't pull his or her weight on that meeting, right? But they might say that in a as it relates to a partner. Our partners are complicating this deal. It's not. So you've got to be able to make sure that those little comments that degrade trust and degrade confidence are sort of wiped out, and that's a leader's responsibility in the organization to reinforce that.
This is one of those things too, where making sure you make it a system so you don't have to trust your memory. So like I'll just create a recurring calendar invite for once a week that says to highlight a specific thing in Slack, for example, with a screenshot that I want to incentivize in the team or celebrate. Just making myself do that on a consistent basis. And for a partnerships person, it can be easy to feel like I'm not getting enough credit for the influence that I'm bringing to these deals. And so you want to point to what you've done. But if you can flip that around, and every time a salesperson, if you give them some intel, some partner intel that becomes useful, or get partners involved in a deal, instead of saying like, hey, we got this partner involved, praise them. This salesperson did a kick-ass job of going and talking to this partner, right? So now you're creating this incentive that like, hey, if you involve partners, you're going to get some praise. You're going to get some love for it.
Yeah. That's a great point. Like I wrote down, I got a bunch of things here. Great dialogue. You nailed the last one though. Like if you're in this job to go be the guy or the gal, you're in the wrong job. Like, I mean, I was a salesperson, carried a bag first part of my career. And I was like, I'm never going to be good enough to be a CRO. Like in sports, I was a baseball player for those who play baseball. I was a number 2 hitter. I was a guy laying down sacrifice bunts. I wasn't very good athletic, but I was a grinder. And it was like, but the team was about the team win. So if you love what we do, it's because you want the team to win and you don't care who gets credit. And it's amazing what a team can get done when no one cares who gets credit. But Isaac, you're absolutely right. Like our sales reps have the hardest jobs in the company. If you don't appreciate that, go try to do their job and then come back. Because I love to hire people who have been sales reps before. In fact, I look for that in people who want to join my ecosystem team, because you have to appreciate how hard that job is and have empathy for it. But it's celebrating those little things. You mentioned it. We have a product where you can send weekly kudos. Just send kudos. Pat people on the shoulder. Even if they didn't do it perfectly, don't tell them that they did. Like it's celebrating the little wins, especially when you're building a new partner program. That's what we're doing here at Clari. Like it's a scratch build, or you're building a new partnership, like a specific partnership. Go celebrate those early wins, because that's the way you start to get momentum, right? Especially in a virtual world where that's the way people, that's the happy hour after work on Fridays when people are normally, congratulating each other. So those things, we do office hours. So just throw time on there. People can come in, if they're curious about how you partner, and do it cross-functionally. Like I love talking about the business that we're building inside of Clari because it's so cross-functional. So people from finance grab time. Just, you have to be an evangelist for what you do. And that work's never done. That work is never done, because of the point that Kevin made, you're only as good as your last interaction. And what's going to happen is a partner is going to do something silly sometimes that maybe puts a deal sideways. One of our reps is going to do something silly that's going to maybe put a partnership relationship in a little bit of a tough spot. But you have to own those things, teach in the moment, but know that work's never done. But also inspiring your teams that you're teaching them a skill. Like, and I think one of the beautiful things I'm looking at, trying to look at the lemonade out of lemons of this current environment, is like, take the time while people aren't as busy as things aren't pumping like they were the last 2 or 3 years, to teach them a skill on how to be smarter about how they work and leverage all the resources that are around them. Because the people who did that really well are going to be hugely successful in this environment. And the other side of this, they're going to be continuing to kick ass, because Kevin said, like, this was a big SAP saying, which is a company I worked at a couple different times through acquisitions. Like, you can win alone, but you should never, ever lose alone. Losing alone was like, you had a big problem. And so take advantage of all that now and create that culture.
Love that. Omer left I guess it's the way that we're doing comments in there. It's technically a question, but it's a comment. Focus on celebrating behavior. Don't wait for success. Yeah, very important. I mean, it sounds like such small stuff, but just making that something that you force yourself to do on a consistent basis. And then once you get the muscle going, then it gets easier and you can do it more quickly. Well, let's get into the weeds a little bit with a specific use case that I know you guys are doing over there at Clari, taking Nearbound data and using that to expand into new markets of some kind. I don't know if it's geographical or what, but I'd love to. Kevin's the one that brought this up, that you guys are kind of doing this, and I'd love to kind of hear how you're doing that and how you're making use of that information.
Yeah, no, great question. And so I'll back up a little bit. Like, one of my mantras is partners are customers. So going back to attitude, like, one of the things, and if you listen to the best CEOs of the best, certainly technology companies in the world, the Benioffs, the Bill McDermotts, the Christian Kleins of the world, like, they never say the word customer, employee without saying the word partner. And so you have to think of partners as customers. And to that end, like, it's everyone's job to take care of customers. It's everyone's job to take care of partners. So I brought our marketing team really in early to our rollout of Reveal. And one of the really huge benefits of that was like, oh, wow, we're trying to get into a couple of new industries. In the case of Clari, was medical device space was one of them. And so we were able to leverage the power of what we saw inside of Reveal to give us some direction on how to go attack this market, right? And I'm sure everyone on the phone, whether it's a new industry you're going into or a new geographic territory, or you're going from enterprise into SMB, or you just acquired or launched a new product that has a new persona you're selling to, it's really cool to understand what other technologies those organizations are using. And we have the great benefit of being able to partner with a couple of folks that are frankly a year ahead of us in that journey, that we're able to partner with them and say, hey, how did you get into this medical device space? Like, where did you start? And helping us understand, it's almost like intent signal, right? It's the same way that you'd be able to understand, okay, are these people in the market? Are they interested? If they buy a product that's adjacent to yours, and maybe it's a product they buy before they buy Clari, what a great place to be able to start a focus area and learn from those teams. So we've really taken the power of the platform as a way to go do some focused ABM marketing and understand who are the partners that are ahead of us, who are the people inside of those orgs, right? I mean, in the spirit of like, what's some goodness that will come out of this downturn, we're having like a really bunch of smart people that were in tech the last 4 or 5 years getting displaced from tech, but winding up in traditional industries. And so for me, if it's the person who used a tech stack of Clari and 6 Sense and Showpad over at a certain customer, and we can understand, wow, they took that from a tech environment over to a new industry. Let's go make that, just because they're a disruptor inside of some of those spaces, and use them as a way to go continue to grow inside of a space and learn from that. So for us, it's become a lot more than just kind of, hey, we got a deal, I'm looking for an intro here, to like up market to our strategy and market teams, honestly. Like, our strategy teams who are looking at what's Clari look like 3 to 5 years down the line, they want to get access to be able to understand, okay, where's the rest of the market already gone, and how can we learn from that?
I love that. So you said something at the beginning that you rolled out Reveal to your marketing team, and then they had this aha moment. What did that look like? Like, so did you hit them up and say, hey guys, I want to demo this new product that I'm using for you? Or how did you get them to give you the time of day to say, all right, let me see what you're talking about, RJ?
Hey, intellectual curiosity is I think the greatest gift that anyone has. And for me, I found a couple. One was an MDR, like someone who was actually leading a team of MDRs, and the other was an ABM specialist, and they were curious about it. So I said, I'll give you a login. And I kind of walked them through it. The platform was super intuitive, so it didn't require a lot of like, here's what you need to do. And then what was super interesting is I saw how active they were in the platform. They started reaching out to us for questions, and I started connecting them to our Reveal CS team to be like, hey, why don't you talk to them directly? Because I think there's a lot that Reveal could use about your perspective as a marketing persona using this tool. So, and then what happened from there, Isaac, was, oh, so-and-so, RJ, I heard from Tyler and Derek about this tool. The next thing you know, like, wheels start turning and people are talking are selling on your behalf, right? And selling internally and saying, hey, this is really interesting. I know you think it might be this, but here's some way I use it to go and form, a better marketing strategy. And so that in our industries group and then what it's done for our teams in Europe is exactly the same thing, but more on a geographic basis. And so now as we're looking to expand out of core markets in Europe and Asia Pacific, we're looking and saying, okay, where are the people that we partner with? Where are they landing? And how can we go learn from them?
I love that. It's funny. We have this narrative that like, hey, the market as a whole, we've kind of moved from the how economy where buyers are asking, how do I do things, to the who economy where they're just saying, who can I trust? Who can I ask? And it's sometimes easy to forget that actually applies inside the company as well. And I love that you're like, I found a couple people who were really curious, who I knew would nerd out on this with me and find it interesting. And then like word of mouth, it starts to, people are like, wait, I heard about this from this other person,
Right. And it's just like when one of your customers tells a prospect of yours how great your solution is. So if I went to the marketing team and said, let me tell you how great what we're doing is and what it is, like, that's one thing. When one of their peers says it, it's a different thing. And that builds champions. Like, again, the same concept of taking care of partners is just like taking care of customers. It's everyone's job. And Lord knows all of our teams are always going to be understaffed, right? How many times can we talk about this? And I'm sure we all do it internally and we ask for more help. But for me, if you do this really well, you have advocates of people who are working for you in other departments. And so for me, I think one of the challenges that I've seen in building these programs is like, do you go take your own partner marketing or do you go inspire people inside of other orgs? Enablement part and marketing is two specific areas. Say, hey, like this is all one team. Let's go find out a way to go do this at scale and go make it a part of their success. So it's not a binary. Is this a partner thing or is this a direct thing? It's a Clari thing. Do we want to win? Yeah, we want to win. And if we start worrying about kind of whose job it is, then, it's just that kind of stuff doesn't work in these kind of times.
Yeah. I love the just the use case there of involving that data at the strategic level, at the decision-making level about breaking into markets. That's really cool. I've heard that a little bit with integrations, kind of deciding what integrations you should prioritize, but that's really interesting for your marketing team.
And I'll take it a step further. Like we did it as we're growing into certain parts of Europe, we found our tech partners who are in those markets. And then we talked to them and said, who are your best solution consult? Like, who do you work with inside of that? So when we talk about the idea of ecosystems, not channels, like that's an ecosystem, right? If I can go talk to a partner who's already conquered Southeast Asia with their solution and find out who are the system integrators they work with, who are the local like influencers that it would take us months to find out, like what a great way to be able to help kind of cultivate relationships that benefit both parties inside of the partner relationship. So yeah, I mean, we're just barely scratching the surface with it.
Oh, I love it. Okay, we got a couple questions I want to get to. One is something we've kind of touched on in various ways, but Chuck asks, what are the best ways to engage the team to get everyone involved in the wins and success of the partner org? I don't know if you have anything to add that we didn't cover before.
Yeah, I think, Chuck, great question. Good to see you. Yeah, we do a Slack channel. Spiff, Chuck is one of our we have a Slack channel that we leverage for, introductions, influence. What's my third eye? Oh man, I hope I didn't
intros, intel, and influence.
Intel. All right. That's what we do. And I love the framework that you guys have there. But we use the Slack channel. But Slack's just all the problems of email moved over to Slack. I don't know about everyone else's org. Like, where is it? So go to meet the people where they are. So take those success stories, put them into like your company kind of kudos kind of thing, put them into your go-to-market channels, like go trumpet those across the board. But I've found Slack having these office hours and, everyone's got company virtual, like, town halls and things, like go lobby for 15 minutes once a quarter to go tell some of those stories. The other thing is everyone with the President's Club, right? Everyone, I don't know about LinkedIn, everyone's congrats to all the folks that were out at President's Clubs over the last couple months. Remind people that we just do this a lot at Qualtrics, right? I spent the previous 4 years was highlighting to people that the people who actually went to club were the people who partnered the best. and correlating that data, reminding people at the point where the people who are 95% didn't quite get there, like salespeople are competitive. So being able to use a point in time like that to say, hey, that extra 5% or your ability to get from 100% of your number, 120 could be based on using partners more. So I think finding multiple channels and using moments in time that matter.
I love it. We got a question from Sammy here. How do you get your partners activated? We're struggling to get referral leads and are trying to be creative in our approach. Kevin, I'm sure you've probably got something on this as well.
Well, where I would start is just before RJ answered that last question was where he finished, which was, Clari's doing an incredible job of leveraging partners for intel, for information, and then using that in a thoughtful way. And I think the challenge with getting any partner, quote unquote, activated is like, are you defining activation as the giving you leads? And that's really all that it means. I don't know. But I think that for me and at Reveal and some other roles, it's this level of data has allowed for a lot more sort of proactive use of data that doesn't require saying, listen, can you get me an intro to this particular contact at this company in the next 7 days, right? Instead, what we're hearing from Clari is you're using all of this data. Maybe they'll give you an intro or a referral, but if you can use the intelligence to steer your directions on the best opportunities to pursue, the best accounts to pursue, those that'll have the highest chance to close, knowing that there's an integration that can be leveraged that's really, really solving for enterprise value of that end customer when they're using both solutions. Those are all contributing to wins that you can go and then tell that partner or tell a bigger story that will motivate referrals to then come, right? So you kind of have to use what's at your disposal first and go and do the work before you might get a lot of those referrals. You've got to tell compelling, valuable stories in market before those referrals are just going to sort of make their way to you. And those intros are a little bit easier.
Yeah. And I would say, just taking that a step further, this work's never done. And I'm probably like scaring people if they just give me this. But honestly, like you are enablement, like when people say partner enablement, which is certainly an important part, one of the hardest parts of this job. It's not just your internal folks. Like I talked a lot at the beginning about getting the right attitude, doing that. Like you got to go convince the salespeople at your partners that this is important to them. Right. And then you gotta make sure your sales team understands what's important to them. And so it's a fundamental basic of any partner relationship is what's the value exchange, right? And so Kevin, your point, it could be a functional gap you have in your product and these guys fit that gap. And when you hear this in a customer conversation, you bring them in, it could be as simple as that. Usually it's not though, right? Usually it's a little bit more nuanced. And what are they looking for out of it? Right. And so being able to activate those partners and understanding that, you have to motivate them. Like when I was running partnerships, we had a great relationship with American Express back in the day when I first got transitioned from sales at Concur into partnering. And like, we would literally they knew me better than they knew the person who ran the partnership, like the MX reps. And so embedding yourselves, endearing yourselves to the salespeople and account managers at your partners is key. Now, you can't do that for every partner, but trying to be able to do that at scale starts with what's the value exchange and what's in it for them. And if you understand what that is, you're going to get their attention. And if you don't have that, then you may wonder why you're investing time in that relationship. And that's just the reality of what we do.
Yeah, we talk about, AEs leveraging this Nearbound play. They're in an account, they look at who are the partners that have, that this account is a customer of. Can I click that get intro button and ask for an intro or intel? But it goes the other way too. Those will get so much easier and you'll get so much better stuff back if you kind of try to habituate doing it in the opposite direction. So if you pull up a partner, if there's a partner you want to activate and you think there's a lot of value there, go look at the common accounts, go look at open opportunities that they have that are customers of yours, and go pick a few and proactively message them and say, hey, I want to just share this with the AE that's working on this account. I see this as an opportunity for you. We closed them last quarter. Here's a little bit of intel for you. You start to do that a couple times, it trains them and it signals to them, oh, this is how we partner. And then they'll start to do it back, or they'll respond when you come with those requests.
Totally. Like I have a rule, it's in life in a bit, like give 60%, expect 40%. And if you do that when you're part, especially with a new relationship, Sam, like they'll want to work with you. Here's the other thing. You're competing for mind share with that sales rep or account manager at your partner with a bunch of their other partners. Like I tell my team at Clari all the time, like there's always so many things that we could control. But if we could be the best, this is our North Star. Like I want to create the best partnering sales team in the space. And if we do that, which is, Isaac, what you said, leading with information, like, hey, thought of you with this lead. I know we've talked about it before. Or when you're getting on the call to ask for a favor, instead of just saying, hey, can you introduce me to their RevOps leader? You say, hey, I've talked to Sally, I've talked to Bob. You lead with some information about what you know. You'll get a lot more. A, you'll get a lot more out of what they give back. And B, they'll view you as a true partner and not someone who's there to just like provide them information when it's, when it's convenient.
Yeah. And you're not just, talking, right? RJ, you literally did this with me this morning, right? You brought information to me that made my job easier. It steered me in a direction where there's significant value for us. And you did it, you were going to go and do your thing anyway, but you brought me in and you brought me along for the ride because you saw significant value for us at Reveal to capitalize on a similar opportunity that you were pursuing. Right. So, I mean, you live it. And I think that's the other part of this, right? And when we go all the way back to attitude, is you can talk about these things and then you can do these types of things. And you have to make sure that there's follow through, execution, accountability over all the things that you say you're going to do, right? Isaac, that's one of the things I remember from first meeting you was, what you value most is in people is when they follow through and do what they say they're going to do. And I think that speaks to partnerships in such a big way. Like we don't have a lot of sort of opportunities to miss. So you've got to make sure you execute when you say you're going to do something.
Yeah. You talked earlier about trust, Kevin. Partnerships are trust. Any relationship, right? It's foundation. And they're saying like trust is earned in drops and lost in buckets. So anytime you can go put some contributions to the trust bucket with a partner, even if it doesn't benefit you right now, it's just, I don't know, it's good karma, but I can tell you that that's the kind of thing that will pay you back in spades. And so and again, if you lead with that attitude from your seat as an ecosystem leader, it's one thing, but getting your teams to think that way too. Like, and hey, right now, and what a great time to do it. When people are swimming in top of funnel leads and deals slipped, you pulled one in, like we may never see those. I hope we do, but like people need to get smarter. They need to get more resourceful. And right now, like what a great time to teach people this skill. And so I encourage everybody out there, like go invest. It's in the US, it's the summertime, things slow down a little bit. Like go take the time to go, like we're going to do a bunch of enablement with our reps and our account managers over the next couple months. And there's the other thing, like the gold and the value that relationships and roles like everybody has on the phone here does for anyone's customer success org was always there, but it's never been more apparent than it is right now. So make sure you're investing in your customer success orgs as well.
And with those new partners or partners that you're kind of trying to get activated, being really explicit about what the nature, we talk about intro, intel, influence, which of those are going to be the most relevant. So even just getting on a call, pulling up your Reveal instance and saying, okay, let's look at the overlap we have. Now you tell me pick 5, which of these are the 5 most important accounts for you right now? And then let's put next to them, can we provide intel, intro, or influence for any of those? I did this back when, before I knew about all this Nearbound and partner stuff, when I was raising venture capital for a company I was in. I went out and talked to everybody I knew that was connected to anybody. And I had this list and I would say, here are the investment firms I want to go after. You fill in the sheet with whether you can do a cold intro, a warm intro, right? Like whether you can give me their contact information at the very least, whether you're willing to go. And then I just went and I had like this whole, right? You can do that with your partners. Like, here, I'm going to tell you our 5 accounts that you're in that are the most important, and you do the same. And then we'll just have an honest conversation. Are you able to do anything there? No, great. I won't ask, right? Can you do something here? And then you kind of set those expectations up front and get that motion going. I love Delphine here. Delphine says, mapping partners is the next Nearbound hack. My partners are my future partners.
Yeah, that's like a mind blow. Yes, she's right. But that's again why ecosystems, not channels, because those are some of the best plays to go, right? Then you start to get to some trifecta plays, right? So think about that example of your local partner in Spain that you're launching into, and then your partner that's already in Spain. Think about like joint marketing and the ways you can go get scale as you're continuing to grow. And we're all going to we're in a time of scarcity here. And so when you could be a resource to your company and say, wow, we were able to break into that new market quicker because of the ecosystem function, like that's beautiful, right? And that's where you start to go do really strategic work and you're top of mind for the rest of the org. So yeah, but it all starts with that expectation setting. Totally great.
RJ, when you were, identifying some of this info for these new markets, okay, what are the products, the adjacent products people are using? Were you using that purely as an indicator of like, hey, this looks like this market is ripe? Or were you actually going and then talking to those people who had won customers in that market, people, your partners at adjacent software, to go get intel from them?
A little of both, right? So for us, it was more, we realized that we're like, wow, there's a couple of these partners that are showing up in places we want to go to. So what did they do, right? And then you started to talk to them and say, how did you wind up in the medical device vertical and have all that success? So some of it was more backwards looking. I can tell you now, moving forward, when we're looking at new industries, strategic industries to break into or new markets, we'll use that as part of our market sizing exercise, right? Because for me, it was more reactionary for us in this round, but I think it could totally be something that you want to be able to go do, right?
I like that. The market sizing use case. Any other questions? Pop them in there real quick. We'll wrap in just a minute or two here. If Kevin or RJ, if you have any other thoughts we haven't covered or anything you want to throw in, go for it. And we'll wait just a minute to see if there's any final questions. Everything that needs to be said has been said, I guess. Okay. We're gonna wrap it. Thanks for everybody for coming. As I mentioned, every Wednesday noon from here on out, and we're gonna bring in people who have done cool stuff. And so anybody you have, if you want to come and chat about what you're working on, what kind of stuff you're doing, Nearbound related, looks like we have a question. Love the session. Thank you. Hey, thanks for coming. So hit us up anytime. You can email me directly, Morehouse@reveal.co, or whoever your contact is at Reveal. Any of us will be responsive, and look forward to doing this again. RJ, this was awesome. I'm gonna have my content team kind of put together a little summary of some of the things that we talked about here and get some shared out there. And we should have recordings as well for anybody who wants to share this with anyone else on their team.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. Great to chat with everybody.
RJ.
Thanks, Kevin, for sidekicking with me. I'm going to get you on here again next time.
You got it. See ya.
See you, everybody. Hey, great to meet you.